The September 14th, 2003 Jamestown Post-Journal, General Manager Eric Edelstein tried to define what a successful minor league baseball season is. Certainly the record of 22-51 does not necessarily rise to the level of success. However, there were several other reasons to be very proud of the 2003 season. One of the many reasons for success was having the opportunity to meet former stars like Tim Raines, Tony Perez, and in this interview, Andre Dawson. Andre Dawson, born July 10th, 1954 in Miami, Florida. Despite a long history of knee problems, Andre Dawson has been a very productive offensive player and a surprisingly good defensive outfielder, the winner of 8 Gold Glove awards. The 6'3", 195-pound Dawson, a right-hander, entered the major leagues with National League's Montreal Expos late in the 1976 season. His best season was with Montreal in 1983 when he led the league with 189 hits, had 32 home runs with 113 RBIs and 104 runs scored. During the 1986 year, that was the collusion year, Andre Dawson left the Montreal Expos and signed with the Chicago Cubs for a meager $500,000. Story of that to follow. He was a free agent in 1987, and that was the National League's. He was the National League's most valuable player that year, leading the league with 49 home runs and 137 RBIs. During Andre Dawson's 21-year career, he played for the Montreal Expos, Chicago Cubs, Boston Red Sox, and Florida Marlins. He earned 8 Gold Glove awards. He was named to 8 All-Star teams. He was one of only 4 players in the history of baseball to have hit 300 home runs and stolen 300 bases in a career which included 2,774 hits, and he is perennially near the top in the Hall of Fame voting. And if you listen to Tony Perez, he should be in soon. We look forward to hearing the comments of the All-Star and all-time great Andre Dawson.
It's All-American for 3 years, drafted by the Montreal Expos in the June draft of 1975 in the 11th round. And pretty much from there, you know, things just sort of started to happen for me. My first year in professional ball, I was a minor league Lethbridge Expos Rookie Ball Minor League Player of the Year. The second year, I got the elevation to Double-A, skip and Single-A, and I was in Double-A for a month before I was promoted to the Triple-A team, and in the big leagues at the end of the season there. So it was a fast climb through the minor league system for me, a year and a half. And I look back at my days as an Expo. I spent 10 years there, and the one thing that stands out, you know, the most was that for an expansion team, it wasn't that long before we found ourselves competing with the best teams in the division, the Philadelphias, the Pittsburghs, teams that were comprised mostly of veteran ball players that had been through the wars and who knew what it would take to get to postseason play. And Montreal had talented ball clubs. We always felt that we were just a player or two away from being a competitive postseason, consistent ball club. But those teams were just a step ahead of us.
Montreal Expos, who won the second half in the National League East and entered the postseason for the first time in history. After winning a divisional playoff against the Phillies, the Expos faced the Dodgers, with a pennant-deciding game taking place on a Dodger Blue Monday.
Here's the 3-1 pitch, and it's swung on, fly ball, center field. Dawson going back onto the warning track. Dawson at the wall. That ball is a home run. That ball is out of here, and the Dodger bench clears to congratulate Rick Monday, who has hit a 2-out home run here in the 9th inning.
Rick Monday's shot brought Los Angeles a pennant as it ended Montreal's higher hopes. The Dodgers went on to beat the Yankees in the World Series in 6 games, giving the Dodgers just their 3rd win in 11 World Series with New York.
Before I was a free agent, and when I became a free agent, what was more important to me was to get off of the AstroTurf and get on a natural playing surface in an effort to extend my playing career. And I had 12 knee operations throughout my 20-year span, and the one thing I'm probably most proud of is the longevity aspect. Major League Baseball players, you have a lifespan of only 4 years, if that, and to endure what I had to do just, made me think and made me work that much harder as a ball player, and not really take for granted that, you can throw your glove out there on the field and play the game. There's a lot of dedication, there's a lot of determination and hard work involved, and it made me step up my work ethic. In Chicago, I played 6 years. I was the runner-up to the MVP award in Montreal twice, and I figured the only way I'm going to win it is if I get somewhere where I can get a little bit more exposure, and it happened my first year in Chicago. And I must say that that's probably one of the greatest cities that you can play in. That organization is something special about it. Wrigley Field, daytime baseball. And what I try to say to players is that, if you ever get an opportunity to experience Wrigley Field, it would be extra worth your while. And I played there for 6 years before I was a free agent again. And I remember it was Sammy Sosa's first year. It was a change in management, and I kind of took Sammy under my wing a little bit and told him that, my days here are probably numbered. I can see the writing pretty much on the wall. They wanted to put Sammy in right field. They brought him in as a center fielder, but I just tried to remind him of just how special it is to be a Chicago Cub, to wear that uniform, and if you do things the right way, these people will love you. And it's turned out real well for Sammy, one of the, more, I guess, exceptional power hitters ever to play the game. And his relationship, you can't really say enough about it, what it is with that city and the fans in Chicago. I played 2 years in Boston and 2 years in Florida with the Marlins before I retired. I happened to retire a year before they won the World Series, so I just felt that, well, in this game, timing is everything. But when I look back at it, you got to do what you got to do, and I never look back and say, what if, how come, have any regrets, because I played the game as long as I wanted to. I had a goal to play 15 years, I played 20 years, and I left everything out on the playing field. Now I'm just a broke down front office employee. But I look back and I had a real a career that I'll probably be a lot more proud of when I can sit down and probably talk about it with my grandkids. I have my kids; they're not that excited about it right now, but I look back at my career, and if I had to change anything, do anything differently, I'd do everything the same way, because I just played the game as hard as I could, and tried to be the best ball player, to be the best individual that I could when I was out there on the field, and make sure that I made myself available to the people who supported me, and that was the fans. And I don't really have any regrets. I don't get too long-winded. I do a lot of this stuff, and sometimes I can get a little redundant with what I say, but I'm just an individual who I had a dream as a kid, and I followed my dream. And it's good to be able to say that you had an opportunity to do what it was you wanted to do in life, you got paid for doing it, and you enjoy doing it. And I'm one of a very few people that have that exception, that can really stand back and say that, you know, they had a dream and they was able to do what they wanted to do. And baseball has always been my livelihood, and it's good now in a sense that I can say that I can look at the youth of the game today and be able to share some experiences, say some things to them, and hopefully be inspirational to them in a way. And for me, it really makes it just worth my while. So I'm not going to get too long-winded. I know there may be some questions. I'm going to open it up for any questions.
When you end up in the Hall of Fame, what hat will you be wearing?
Well, I'd like to make that announcement, but
You gotta get elected first, right?
I really don't. As of 2 years ago, the players don't really have a choice or say-so in the matter. Major League Baseball has stepped in, and they're going to make the determination which hat you wear. I've been known to do some things in the past, and that has never been done in a game before. One is to give the Chicago Cubs a blank contract and tell them, just pay me what you think I'm worth. It's never been done by a player, so if I have to challenge them with the possibility of wearing a hat that I want to wear, I may be the first player to challenge Major League Baseball, but right now they make the determining factor.
If you were the commissioner today, what would you change?
Well, I think what the commissioner is trying to do right now is to get the game back to a status that it was maybe 15 or so years ago. He's trying to bring the game back to the fans. Baseball has a lot of problems, a lot of distractions, some of which don't like to be addressed. And some people, you know, don't like to sit down and face the fact that, you know, there are problems. Some of the issues are being addressed. They're trying to clean the sport up, get the act together. But the one thing I like to do is make the game more affordable for people to come out and be able to enjoy the game and get back into the game.
How about TV? Could you get that changed, like this time 8 o'clock?
Without a doubt. Yes, and it's all because of the money that's involved, you know. But it's not good for the audience because kids can't stay up 11, 12 o'clock watching a World Series game. For some reason, those games seem to drag on, and they take 3.5 hours, usually 3.5 hours to play. But I think there needs to be a format where the games have to be started a little bit early and be a little bit more accommodating for your audience.
You were saying about distracting football on baseball. Do you think because the stadiums where the COVID, you got Kid Zone and they got like Arizona, they got the pool, that the fans are not really paying attention to the game, that they're more distracted to what's going on outside the game, that people are not really knowing who's playing that, but they're just there to have fun, you're not really watching the game.
Yeah, well, I think in a sense some of it is good because it makes it more fan-friendly, but sometimes it gets out of hand. You're there to enjoy the game. And some of these activities has nothing really to do with the game. For instance, there are a lot of pools and things, spas that are being incorporated in some of the facilities, and it really has nothing to do with baseball. But I think what avenues need to be addressed a little bit more is how you get fans closer to the players. You want to be able to have that relationship. Fans want to be able to relate with the players, want to be able to sit down and mix and mingle with the players. Want to have that hands-on type of relationship with the players. And the biggest problem I see with that is that, you know, so much money is being put into these guys today that, you know, a lot of them think that, you know, hey, I don't have to do this. You know, they don't really make it worth their while to have that association with the fans. And I think that's where the gap, that's where there's a divided factor, and fans are a little bit turned off by some of the attitudes. When I grew up, I was around a lot of veteran ball players that would sit down after games, and they would reflect about what may have transpired during the game and what adjustments may be needed from there forth. Today, you have players that's you know, they're 10, 15 minutes after the game, they're gone. That's just the attitude, the change in the ball players today. It's a whole different makeup today, and a lot of it has to do with the finance.
Came up in a Montreal system that was really considered second to none of developing talent. The problem over the years, especially since the start of '94, is they have to do a report keepers and there's always going to see them. What do you see as the future of the Montreal organization?
Well, it is a tough market at this particular point in time, and you hate to see that happen. You hate to see a situation where a franchise is faced with moving, a city losing a franchise. And, you know, back in my heyday, sort of say, we did draw the fans. Where they went, you know, it's very hard to say, but I do feel that because of the fact that a new ballpark, a new facility has been tossed around, mentioned in the last several years, that is what they feel would be something that would get the organization back to where they should be, prominence. But I don't really feel that, and when I think about it and I think back, I don't really feel that right now the city supports, will support a Major League Baseball team. It's a hockey town, and it always has been a hockey town. And you have the French and the English clashing with each other. It's just not really the ideal setup at this time. And Major League Baseball has to do what it feels will benefit that organization. As you mentioned, they have a reputation of building and supporting and bringing in the best talent in minor league baseball, and they weren't able to keep those players together. They didn't really get the fan turnout. So if it's broken, you have to fix it. What Major League Baseball is going to do about that particular setup situation is going to be interesting and remains to be seen.
What team your favorite team you played with?
My favorite team? Well, I would have to say I can't say what team is my favorite team. There were teams where, okay, there were teams where, you know, you had some exceptional talent and you had some guys that really dedicated themselves, worked hard day in and day out. There was a city, of course, where personally I enjoyed playing. That was Chicago. I had to go there, right? But to pick a certain team, I would say probably was the '89 Cubs, because we went to the postseason play and we were a team of overachievers. We had a manager who really brought that ball club together. We had a lot of young players on the team, and even though we lost to the San Francisco Giants in the playoffs, that team had a lot of heart, determination, and dedication. And I was a veteran ball player, and it was amazing for me to sit back and watch how well the team came together.
Sosa play on that team or no?
No, Sosa wasn't on that team.
As a ball player, do you think it's a good idea or a bad idea for the way the All-Star game is determined now, that determines where the extra game at the World Series is going to be played?
I really don't think that, you know, there's a whole lot of significance as a ball player with, you know, the way that setup is today. I don't think that it's going to change the intensity of the game itself. The players themselves look at it as an exhibition game, and sure, it's going to be managed a little bit differently because of the determining factor. But I don't really think that the magnitude of the game itself from a player perspective, when they go out there, is going to change the way they go about the game. They're just going to, you know, go out there and try not to embarrass themselves, if that's a possibility, and just hope that they, you know, they can get through the game without getting hurt.
Thank you.
Okay. Going back to the '94, the strike camp. Do you think that baseball has bounced back since that time, or baseball still have how you see it?
No, baseball, it's been like a roller coaster ride. You know, it's been up and down. Now there's still, I think, some work that has to be done. Of course, you know, the game in the state that it is today, because of probably the parity, the teams and in the higher echelon that are competitive, and then the middle teams and the teams that are at the bottom. And I think general managers are trying to find ways now to win, develop winning situations with as less a payroll as possible. And the only guarantees is you gotta spend money in order to win, but spending money doesn't guarantee winning. So they're trying to find a way to stabilize salaries, stay in the middle of the pack if necessary, or if at all possible, and be competitive also. Well, you have no qualms with me. I'm forever what's going to work. And the problem is the salary structure has gotten so out of hand. And they're trying to stabilize it a little bit more now. The superstars, they're going to make their money. But, you know, the situations that you're faced with is a good veteran ball player. He has to pretty much play for the terms of the ball club. And then you have your players at the lower part of the pay scale who are going to play for maybe the minimum or whatever range or category they fall in, determining on how many amount of years they have. I don't believe that, you know, owners can't. I don't believe, and I refuse to believe that they can't sit down and work with the union and make this thing work. I'm for whatever it is that's going to make the game itself work and make it more affordable for fans and make the relationship better between the players and the fans.
During the period of collusion, there were people who disbelieved it, even though it was as obvious as the nose on anyone's face. And I'd had people in that period say to me and write that owners can't agree on anything. How could they have collusion? And everybody forgot that prior to 1947, all of the owners colluded to make sure that not a single non-white player could play in the major leagues. That was a collusion which had existed for decades. And the only way they could keep players out, no matter whether they were Satchel Paige or what have you, superstars in their own right, the only way they could keep them out was a collusive conspiracy.
In 1985, Carlton Fisk, still one of the premier catchers in the game, became a free agent. He strangely received only one offer and eventually re-signed with Chicago. In 1987, Andre Dawson, the Montreal Expos star slugger, tried free agency too. No one wanted him.
I kind of felt that I was really, you know, putting myself on the line and doing that. But I was hoping that they would come in and be very reasonable. And the offer they made, of course, it was not even for half of what I played for the year before. And the one thing, you know, about myself is it was never really an issue about monetary value. I just wanted the game to be fun to me, and I wanted to go on a natural playing surface and be somewhere where the fans made it enjoyable for you. And when they submitted a figure, I think it was in an effort for me to turn it down. And I said, no, I said, I put this in your hands. I'm going to be man enough to stand up to it. And when I gave them the okay, they said, well, we'll call you back. So they wasn't really sure that, you know, it was some kind of trick of anything. And I did get a phone call within a couple of hours, and they said, welcome aboard, and, you know, you can take your time getting out. But I do feel there was an effort on that part for me to turn it down so that I would have to return to Montreal.
87, 49 homers, 137 RBIs, according to this. What made the difference in you that turned that to be your biggest year in that arena?
The biggest difference for me, I think, was one, I was on a natural playing surface. I was happy again. You know, I was a little bit on the bitter or angry side when I left Montreal, because I felt after 10 years, and if I wanted to retire as an Expo, there was no way I should have been hassled as far as negotiations was concerned. And the way that works is that it's very tough, and they know, management knows that, to get players to want to come across the border and play. When you have both taxes involved, you got the situation with the weather, the French and English, you got the clearing and entering of the country, customs. So it's very tough to get players to want to come there and play on a full-time basis. And I just felt after 10 years, if you were going to hassle me, then it's time to move on. And when I look back, my grandmother passed that year. I dedicated the year to her. I really didn't set any goals. I just said, I'm going to go out, I'm going to have as much fun as I can. I started off kind of slow, but I can remember hitting a grand slam against the Cardinals in St. Louis, and that kind of got me going. And from there, it was just amazing. Things just started to happen day in and day out, and the game was just fun again.
Two questions. So many of the organizations nowadays have a pitch count for their young pitchers. You know, they may be working on a 5-0 shutout, but after 70 pitches, out they come. Do you agree with that?
Well, you know, you're from the old school. I can sense that, and you like to see the guy go the distance, shut him out. You like to see the hard-earned victories, and the guys just go out and don't complain, get the job done. A lot of that, I think, is a result of a lot of the players and their agents. Agents are keeping close tabs on what players are doing, and especially when injury situations are involved. But no, I don't really agree with it. I think what it is now, the way the game is changing so much, and the situation with the amount of money players are being played, management is real cautious about having players break down. And the pitch count, I question that a great deal, because I've seen games get lost because of the result of pulling a guy out of the game, when he probably could go a little bit longer. I'm not really an advocate of it, but I understand the stance from management that, well, we got an investment that we want to protect, and the game has changed so much that bullpens now have specialists, and certain players are required to do certain things, and a lot of teams are structured around the fact that we want to get 6, 7 quality innings out of our starter, and then we're going to go to the bullpen regardless of what the situation is.
Second question, from what you've seen of the Cubs this year, do they have a legitimate playoff shot?
Well, that division is so up for grabs right now, and when I think about it, the Cubs probably have the upper hand, and what it's going to boil down to is who has the better pitching and who can stay healthy. And the Cubs is the leader in that category. St. Louis is having some problems with their pitching staff. They got a good offense, but their pitching is faltering. Houston is a good bullpen, some quality starters. They have some offense, but Houston is inconsistent. Dusty Baker, you don't want to get in a situation where you have a guy like a Dusty Baker with a team in first place and you have a month left in the season. With those arms, I think the Cubs have made some moves that have strengthened their ball club, and they were liking in certain areas. And I think if the Cubs' offense stays consistent, the pitching is going to be there, but if the offense stays consistent, they should open that division up.
You played 21 years, Andre. I just want to know who was the greatest traveling secretary you ever had.
Peter Durso. And I say Peter Durso because he probably he was the one guy that he was very tough to deal with. He wasn't the best traveling secretary, but he made sure that as a player, you had no problems and with no one. And he bit the bullet. He took the heat for everything. And it probably burned him out, and he wasn't a traveling secretary that long. But he was one guy that when I think back, everything just seemed to be on his shoulders. He came to the ballpark every day. I think the world was on his shoulders. And, and like I say, I think it just burned him out, but he did a great job.
Probably his second best was Dan Lanetta. Could you talk about him?
Oh, of course. Well, I only experienced Dan for 1 year. And, an exceptional individual. And I think what we have in common is we both were Cleveland Browns fans.
That's true.
And, Dan, a super individual, very good dear friend of mine. And he was in the Montreal organization, and then he was with the Marlins. And I'm not exactly sure. You did mention what he's doing right now, but yeah. But Dan is a super individual.
As the parent Florida Marlins now, they're one of the surprise teams of the year. Are they going to have a legitimate shot here? Do they have what it takes the last month of the season?
I think what you're seeing from the Marlins is the final piece of the puzzle, and that is coming together, getting your good pitching, playing defense, and getting your timely hitting. This team was built around speed, pitching, and defense. A lot of teams try to build their offense around the home runs, but the Marlins took a different approach, and a lot of people felt that it wouldn't work. But in order for it to work, all of these ingredients have to come together, and that's what's happened, I think, the last 2 months. They've made a legitimate run. Now, the determining factor is this last month and a half, you're going to stay healthy. You're going to continue to get the consistency that you have in the last couple of months. And this team, another factor that it has working for it is that day in and day out, they're gaining momentum and confidence. And now that they know that they can compete with the other teams. And the one thing that the starting pitching has done that has allowed them to pull out some games is they've kept them in ball games. They've made some moves to strengthen their bullpen. And now they're confident that if they get the 6 innings out of their starters, that the bullpen is going to come in and get the job done. So this team is playing with a very emotional high right now. And they got to go from a stretch of Colorado, San Francisco. They got some tough games coming up, and the next 2 weeks is going to be a trying time. But the fact that they're playing with a lot of confidence, I think, should be a determining factor.
Well, you have some very good thoughts about baseball and the future of baseball and your philosophies, and like getting players and owners together. What's in your future, sir? I mean, what are you going to do maybe to see some of that through? You thought about that?
Well, the one thing I said when I retired is that I didn't want to put the uniform back on. I didn't want to go back out on the field. And some kind of way I got talked into that. And so many different possibilities, opportunities have been thrown at me. And I still haven't determined, hey, what is my future? I haven't sat down and thought about what I want to do in the future. What I'm doing right now, and I mentioned it earlier, is convenient for me, but I personally know that there's probably a lot more that I can offer to the game, and some things even, while I've been here have been thrown at me, and, I'll evaluate that probably in the next couple of years, but I do feel that, maybe once my kids are grown and they're gone, then I can reflect on it a little bit more. I'm 49, so that's still a young enough age to make an impact on the game, but in answering your question, I really don't know at this point, but I do feel that maybe in another year or two I can answer that.
We have time for 2 more questions.
One question I'm going to ask you, quick about the floor. You said you were left a year before they went back to the World Series. Okay, now, do you think the owners of today, some of the owners are in there to do the team, but other owners aren't. And I think they got the Florida Marlins. My personal opinion, the reason they are drawing to Florida is kind of what happened after the World Series. The owners sent everybody all over the place.
Well, that's true. We have the margin of fans now, and the margin of fans are always going to be there.
Oh, yeah.
We have a kid that's come up from AA, and he's raised a lot of eyebrows. And that's
good managers.
Right, Dontrell Willis, and he's done a lot, for that organization since he's been in the big leagues. The fans have gotten on the bandwagon. He gets 25 plus in attendance, 25,000 plus in attendance when he pitches. And the team has fed off of him, and they're confident when he's out there on the mound. Jack McKeon has come in, and he's done a real good job bringing that ball club together. And as you mentioned, when Wayne Huizinga broke that team up, Wayne Huizinga really wasn't a baseball man. It was basically football. And he did something that, and it worked for him. He gave it a one-shot, one-time effort to put together and spend the money to bring a team there and win a World Series. And it worked out for him. And, when that happened, he really had no other interest in keeping the team together or trying to put the ball club out there and let them repeat. He's a businessman. And he broke the team up and he sold the team at the same time. So he kind of made out on both ends. But, that's just a businessman and not really an owner that's a baseball man. And that's the difference in the owners today. Some have organizations that have come up through their families and, it's been passed down to them. Some are businessmen just in the business, and then there are other owners that, you know, they want to spend the money. They want to try and put a winner out on the field.
And I'm going to echo what this gentleman said. I hope you get back into baseball. Want to gather stuff out for a while.
Well, thank you.
Any more questions? We have time for one more.
I just wanted to ask Andre, who was the toughest pitcher you faced in the National League?
Oh my God, that's over the years. Yeah, when you're struggling, they're all tough.
They're all
when you're struggling, the slider breaks 3 feet instead of a foot. And fastball is 100 instead of 92. But I look back, and I was just saying to one of the guys when I first broke in, that the guys that I had to face as a rookie, and it just didn't seem to get any easier day in and day out. But over the years, you know, I've enjoyed the battles against the Nolan Ryans and the Steve Carltons. I got my first hit off of Steve Carlton. But the toughest pitcher, I think, I can't say he was the toughest pitcher, but I look at my numbers against him, and it just, you know, appeared that, well, maybe this guy was the toughest pitcher, was John Smoltz. And, you know, I faced him more when he was a starter. I never faced him as a reliever. And for some reason, you know, he changed speeds. He kept me off balance a lot. And he was able to get me out front, get me out. I got myself out a lot. I won't say that he was the toughest pitcher I faced. There were guys that, you know, power pitchers that some days, you know, you just don't have a chance against. And then there are days when their good stuff isn't working, and you know, you say, wow, I got through this with a couple of hits, 3 hits, and this is one of the best pitchers in the game. But you know, it all boils down to the game is so funny. You know, day in and day out, you're faced with different situations, and every situation is a learning experience. And you got to find yourself making adjustments. And when you start making adjustments, then the pitcher has to make the adjustments for you. So if you are a smart enough, astute enough ball player to go out there and day in and day out distinguish what you have to do that particular day, you have a lot of success. And that was, you know, the way my approach to the game was. I kept a notebook on how pitchers worked me, how they got me out, and what adjustment I had to make. And I think it paid off in the end because it made me a little bit more consistent, and I didn't have to worry about, well, you know, this guy's going to be real tough on me today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
James, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out to today's event. Please do stick around and watch today's ball game, and let's have one last round of applause for Andre Dawson. If you would like autographs, Andre will be up there for a few more minutes to sign them, so come on up.
One of the most remarkable scenes after the presentation was the autograph session, where several of the Auburn Doubleday ball players stood in line to get the autograph of one of their heroes, Andre Dawson. How does one measure success in the 2003 Jamestown Jammers season? This picture speaks volumes. 3 very happy Jamestown Jammers. Thanks for all the memories, Andre and Tony.